What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast now. I'm Alex. In this video, we have another set of leaks for Batman. Now, I know people, when I make these videos, especially even these more recent ones, people are getting upset. People are at the point, and I completely, by the way, understand. People are at the point where it's like, all right, enough with the leaks. Let's get to when we're actually going to see the game, okay? And so I do want to just, state that I recognize that. I understand you guys feel that way, and honestly, I feel that way too. Again, this is something that I wasn't necessarily going to cover. I didn't think of this, but it seems to have gained enough traction that I feel like it would probably be, again, like unwise of me and would kind of be shorting you guys out if I didn't do this. So we talked about part of this yesterday. There was this guy, he talks about how no E3, no problem. It was on a 4chan thing. And again, you have to take all of these with a grain of salt. And there are some things in here that I don't necessarily believe, right? Yesterday we talked about Injustice 3 because this guy talked about Injustice 3. He talked about a Hitman 3. He talked about a Mortal Kombat 11 Game of the Year edition, and especially like the Neo thing in Injustice 3 kind of makes me question him, and it's kind of a question of, well, if he leaks like 3 or 4 different games and then one of them is like full of things that you don't necessarily believe, does that mean that the other things aren't? And I will also say that when we go over this Batman stuff, a lot of it is recycled. However, there are a couple of new things, and I do want to discuss that, and that generally kind of is my qualification for a leak. If it's just repeating old news, I don't feel the urge to cover it, but if it's repeating most of old news and then having a couple things thrown in, I like to go over it just to see if we can maybe poke at it, see if this guy is onto something or if he's just making it all up. So again, the general premise of this is that Warner Bros. Is going to show a bunch of these games in June. That's what he says, that, at the very end of this, he says, all save for Injustice 3 will be shown in June. So Mortal Kombat, Batman, Hitman 3. Those are the 3 he said. Now remember, Jason Schreier said that it's going to be Batman, Rocksteady, Harry Potter, and more. So I guess he's replacing the and more with Batman and Mortal Kombat, and then he, for some reason, doesn't know any information on Harry Potter and Rocksteady, which is, again, like that's something that when you take a couple steps backwards, you wonder, well, how does he know stuff about Hitman, Mortal Kombat, Injustice, which is many years away, he says 2022, how does he know all these things about those games, but he hasn't said anything about Harry Potter or Rocksteady's games? So again, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, because right there is something that is a little like fishy, I think, about it. But here's what he says: Batman 2020, Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker return. Okay, now that's a big one, right? And I guess we'll talk about all this stuff at the very end. Soft reboot, no Arkham title, ignores previous plots. Gameplay and mechanics from Arkham Knight carry over. Robin, Nightwing, and Batgirl all playable. Largest open world Gotham City yet. Vehicles are in, but no vehicle battles. Some villains include Joker, Harley Quinn, Court of Owls, Ra's al Ghul, Penguin, Riddler, Dollmaker, Clock King, and Black Mask. Late fall 2020. Okay, let's go over that piece by piece. Roger Craig Smith and Troy Baker returning, so that is one of those additional things. We have not heard that yet. Now, again, I think when you follow the timeline of how long we've been covering this, you think, all right, well, it seems pretty plausible that Roger Craig Smith comes back, right? And then you start to think, well, if they're really going to do a reboot and they're going to forget that the past things happen, I feel like in that video that I talked about, should they get a new voice cast, I think that once I was done recording that and once, that's out there, I feel more and more confident, and I want more and more for them to pick different people. And we talked about that in that video, right? That, like, Jokers, you got to do them right, but to give another person a crack at it, you get a whole new personality. And again, if they're going to ignore previous games, right, and this is just a whole brand new thing, why wouldn't you have just a brand new take on these characters, considering, these characters are brand new because you're forgetting about what they've done before, because you're kind of reinventing them. So why wouldn't you have a brand new voice actor, included? When I think like that, hearing that they would return, especially Troy Baker, again, he did a good job. I liked his portrayal of Joker, but if they're going to do something, but like that Joker, Troy Baker's Joker was literally leading into Mark Hamill's in Arkham, Asylum. So I don't know why those two, like, the more I think about it, the more I don't know why those two would actually return, because they wouldn't actually be playing the same versions of themselves that they were before. I guess there's other examples though, right? Like different variations of different franchises, right? Maybe like even like an Optimus Prime, right? Like he's been playing Optimus, that guy, for years, for decades and decades, and they're not always the same version. He has to kind of forget get the Optimus of one version and play the Optimus of another. So I understand it. I guess that would also mean that they would be the voice actors of the future, because remember, it's also all about the future. So you got to think, okay, well, they're probably going to make more Batman games, and Joker would appear, or maybe they appear in like a Justice League thing. So you would want to probably keep these voice actors as well. Makes sense. They're both in the age that you could probably do that, right? So I understand both sides of it. I feel like I'm definitely leaning more towards now of do I want them back? Sure. But would I be crushed if they weren't? And do I also see a very big positive if they just come up with new people in general? Yeah, I do. At the same time, someone like a Tara Strong, like I do want her for like a Harley. So like I'm kind of like picky on which one I want to pick to return and what not to pick. So that's the new part again. But at the same time, you could say, well, Alex, it's not necessarily new, right? Because I mean, they're either coming back or they're not coming back, right? And we've talked about both, and people have kind of theorized both. But this guy says it's both of them returning. Soft reboot, no Arkham title. Definitely. I mean, this is where you start to pick up and you say, okay, let's just start to throw back out there all of the stuff that everybody has already said. And honestly, no, truthfully, that is what this is, right? So he says soft reboot. We knew that, right? No Arkham seems to be the way it's going. Everybody's saying that there's not going to be Arkham in the title. What that means is going to be kind of interesting, because we haven't really talked about that. Remember back in the day when we said, like, what's the title going to be? And we said, like, Court of Arkham or Arkham Legacy, everybody goes with, right? So all these different Arkham things. If you don't have Arkham, what do? Is it like Batman and then the subtitle is like Court of Owls? Or because you can't have, I don't even know. I honestly don't know what you would do. I'm sure you guys can come up with some pretty cool names, and maybe we can theorize that in future videos. But no Arkham, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily sound grammatically correct to say any of those things. Batman, Arkham Asylum, Arkham City. But at the same, like, maybe that's true. But at the same time, like, it sounds really good. Like, it kind of just, flies off the tongue. Whereas maybe if you don't have it, I wonder how that's going to affect, like, just how you say these words. Ignores previous plots. So I guess that's the first time we maybe heard that. But again, if it's a soft reboot, they are going to pick and choose. And what we've kind of always said is they can decide that they don't want to include the storylines, right? And why would you, right? Because they kill Joker off. Now obviously you're going to have Joker back, so you can do whatever you want with him. You can introduce the Justice League. You can have the Bat family. You can make it whatever, again, you can make whatever versions of these characters that you want. But soft reboot, meaning that overall it's still going to feel like an Arkham game. Hence why I've said it should still be called Arkham, because overall you're going to jump into it, and people that have played the Arkham, and also again from like a brand recognition point, people that have played these Arkham games are going to look and say, oh, this is another Arkham game, but oh no, it's actually not. But it pretty much is, because it plays, looks, and feels exactly like it. It's just they're not called it. So again, this is not anything new. We assumed that they were not going to include, and I think there are still people kind of holding on to the hope that, like, maybe it'll connect to Origins, maybe it'll connect to Asylum. At this point, I feel like it's going to be its own standalone thing. They've completely ignored the other games. Gameplay mechanics from Arkham Knight carry over. So again, that's something that we've said. It's going to feel, look, act, all that kind of stuff like Arkham Knight. That's fine. I don't think they should mess with that. I mean, obviously you improve upon it, but you don't throw it out and come up with a brand new fighting mechanic and all that kind of stuff. I mean, loads of games have copied from the Arkham format of how you fight. And while I get it, some people don't necessarily like it. It kind of gets a little. I do agree with that. It kind of gets a little like too big for itself, right? Like maybe even a little too cartoony towards Arkham Knight of how much he's moving around and stuff like that. I get it. At the same time, I think it really, really feels good. I think just in general, like when you're playing, especially those later Arkham games, the feel of those games are truly, truly good, and that's something I think you want to keep with the future games. Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl. So we knew that, right? Those are the missing icons along with the bat symbol of the redacted page. So what if we're gonna get that, or one day can we get that? That's not news to us, but there you go. There's if you guys believe all of this stuff, then there you go. Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl are the other three Bat family playables. Now, is it co-op? Can you play as them whenever you want? Is it only specific missions? Again, those are the things that are the most interesting to me, and we'll have to find out when we actually get to play the game. Largest open world Gotham City yet. It seems like these people are taking from the person that went before them. So, like, this leak came out after that leak that I said, like, a few days ago, like last week, and that one was one of the first ones we had heard, and obviously we all assumed, like, it's going to be the biggest open world Batman game we've gotten. In fact, I did a video, remember, 3-4 weeks ago, and we talked about how big does it need to be? How big will it be? And then all of a sudden, these leaks start saying isn't it weird how all that kind of stuff works out, guys? But you had that leak say it, and now this guy basically repeats the exact same thing. Again, are they kind of adding on to each other? Are they just stealing what the person before them said? All these things that I think we're going to find really interesting once we know about the game and can call these guys liars if they actually are. Vehicles are in, but no vehicle battles. That makes sense. For the longest time, we had heard that, right? That was old leaks, right? That the Batmobile would be in it. That maybe you could maybe fly. Maybe there'd be like the Bat bike. Like there'd be maybe a couple different traversal options for you in this Batman game. But again, common knowledge tells you the majority of people, and I guess maybe not even majority, but very vocal group of people hated the vehicle battles in Batman Arkham Knight. I don't disagree with it. I've said many times. I like the actual driving. I like in a way the fighting of the Batmobile, like when it actually goes in the Bat tank, but I don't want it to return. Like I understand why everybody hates it. I didn't despise it. Like I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're including it. I kind of thought it was fun in a more arcadey side part of a different kind of game. Like it didn't belong in an Arkham game, but it worked for what it was. That is my kind of unpopular opinion on it. But again, we've known for the longest time that the vehicles worked really, really well, and we all want vehicles. I think the traversal again worked really, really well, but at the same time, you got to eliminate the stuff that everybody absolutely hated. And then the villains. Now again, these villains, I guess they're interesting because, firstly, it's just a couple of them. It's not, I assume it's not going to be all of them. We've talked about, the villain wheel. Does that make its return? Does that come back? How many villains are, injected into the main storyline? Are villains just regulated to, side villain status? And again, I mean, some really cool names. Like Joker, we assumed, right? Harley Quinn. I mean, if Joker's in it, Harley's in it. Could they do, if this is really early on, is it Harley? Is it the kind of, transition period for her? What's going on? So that'll be, that's great. Again, I think we all want Harley back, and we've talked about that, right? Court of Owls. Okay, so there's that, I guess, confirmation again. A lot of people still wondering if the Court of Owls thing was ever real or still is real. Ra's al Ghul, that makes sense, right? The League of Shadows, all that stuff. Penguin, Riddler. So you start to get some reoccurring things here. Interestingly, the Two-Face isn't listed here, but again, maybe he's not giving us all of it. It's interesting, Killer Croc, even some of the, big guys, maybe even Hush, right? Mr. Freeze, characters that we got to know quite a bit in Arkham Asylum through Night. They're not making its way in there. But again, this is just a small collection. Riddler will probably make people upset, right? Dollmaker and Clock King. So before I made this video, I knew nothing about these two characters. I looked them up on their own Batman Wikipedia. They seem really cool. It seems like what Dollmaker is kind of like a Hush, right? Because he makes he can make basically humans, or he can make people out of flesh. So interesting. I didn't know. Again, I don't know anything about them. Clock King, also different, right? Mainly, he's just really good at timing and being able to time movements. He can craft swords, I guess. So these seem like interesting characters that I'll tell. If I don't know about them, I think probably you guys do, right? I assume that you guys, at least the majority of you guys may, but I don't think everybody that's buying this new Batman game is going to know some of these side characters. But you know what? That's exactly what I said in those past videos. I want that. I want a collection of characters we've seen before. I want characters that we've seen once or twice before, kind of reimagined again, and I want characters that we've never once seen in a game, and that people like me and just normal people that are just picking this off the the store shelves. We've never seen these characters before. We've never heard about them before, and we finally get a chance to see them. How do they act in a video game? That is very, very exciting. And so these are two characters that fit that bill. Late fall 2020. Okay, still in the fall. So at the end of this, guys, this is exciting. It keeps picking up, and no matter what, we're very, very, very close. I keep saying that at the end of every single video. No matter what you believe, I believe, I'll tell you, I believe that we are just about a month away, maybe a month and a half away from getting this. He keeps saying June. We've heard people say that it needs to happen before June. We've heard people say June at the latest. So June keeps coming up. I really do think this is the time. I think this is the time we're going to be getting the announcement of this game very soon. And if it is in the fall, if it comes out in the fall, it's going to be a very fast road because they got to show it, they got to talk about it, and it's only going to ramp up from there because you got to push it to be ready. Late fall, I guess to me indicates November. Obviously, they've had a history with late October, so I would still assume that late October, early November is where they would place this game. Okay, I know long video. I know not everybody likes these long videos, but there was a lot of info to go through. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you let me know what you think about these leaks in the comments. Any Batman videos you want me to make, we're going to continue our coverage every couple days. And again, we're getting very, very close. Any breaking news, any big thing, we'll have to talk about our overall strategy on this Batman reveal when we get closer, like what to expect from me, because it's going to be pretty epic, I think, when it actually happens. But we'll talk about that going forward. Make sure you guys are subscribed, have that bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next video.